Before I start this review off, I've got a little announcement to make, so if you want to skip to the review, please go to the timestamp mentioned here. Otherwise, if you've been following this series for a number of years, you may have heard me mention once or twice that about a year ago, I finished directing my first ever feature-length movie, a horror film titled Queen Evil. Now, it is actually having its first ever public screening later this month in Fitzroy, so if you're interested in checking that out, I'm going to put all the details in the description. And if you want to see someone that's been rambling about how films are terrible for about 4 years trying to make one himself, then feel free to come along and check it out. Otherwise, let's get this started. Now, a couple of years ago, I used to work at the Mitre 10 over in Heidelberg, which was right near a cash converter. So on my lunch break, I would go off and drop off my paycheck on a number of DVDs and Blu-rays. I managed to pick up today's film, which actually stayed dormant in my collection until about 2017, when I found myself in a brief, albeit pretty dope-ass love affair with a heavy metal girl with long pink hair and a huge taste for music. We were going through a bunch of my movies, just hanging out and watching them, until out of the blue she said, "Hey, do you have Detroit Rock City?" And wouldn't you know it, I fucking did.
Ho 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 ho, delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Welcome back, everyone, and today you're gonna lose your mind in Detroit Rock City, the 1999 teen comedy film directed by Adam Rifkin, the writer of such films as Mouse Hunt and Underdog, as well as being the director of films such as The Chase and the cult classic The Dark Backwoods, both of which were underwhelming in the screenplay department but benefited from what I would call some pretty solid direction. He also directed The Last Movie Star, which was predictable, but also a bit kind of sweet and featured one of Burt Reynolds' best performances, as well as the film Homo Erectus, which, yeah, unfortunately lives down to its title. Rifkin also directed the fascinating documentary Giuseppe Makes a Movie, which is about the auteur filmmaker Giuseppe Andrews, who made movies in his trailer park home with his neighbors. And Andrews, of course, actually co-stars in this movie alongside Edward Furlong, arguably most well known for playing John Connor in Terminator 2. Detroit Rock City currently maintains a 50% score from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and an 82% rating from audiences. And although it only made $5 million on a budget of $17 million when originally released, it has since gone on to become a cult classic and was also the first film to ever come out on DVD before VHS. Now, I have never been the biggest Kiss fan myself. I've seen them live once when they were playing with a number of other bands in New York City, and I'm a fan of a number of their songs, but I would never necessarily call myself a diehard fan. I previously watched Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, hoping to find an episode of material in it, but instead I was just bored with most of the experience. Although the extended scene where Ace Frehley's visible African-American stunt double is used definitely had me laughing. Detroit Rock City kicks off in Cleveland, Ohio during the 1970s, where a good Christian mother puts on a Carpenter's record and is quite surprised at what comes on instead.
Nigga, 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 nigga. I'm 100% nigga. Nigga, 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 nigga.
3 blocks away, we meet the protagonist of our story, 4 teenage boys in a very lackluster Kiss cover band. And the cover band isn't a key plot point in the story. They make a couple of allusions to it, but actually it really serves no purpose. Mum comes over to chastise Jem for listening to the Devil's music before the film kicks off its title credits, where the members of Kiss get top billing alongside the 4 central boys. And that's pretty generous considering when the band members actually show up on screen and how much screen time they get. But then again, Kiss bassist Gene Simmons was a producer on this film, and he's notorious for having a pretty huge ego, so it doesn't really come as a surprise. The next morning, the boys are in a bind because they can't find their tickets to the big Kiss concert, which Jam has taken home by mistake.
Mrs. Bruce is a psycho bitch from hell.
You wanna talk like your mom's a fucking dyke.
Oh my God, you wanna talk about mothers! Oh, you wanna talk about mothers!
At least my mom didn't give birth to me while she was on LSD.
Shrooms!
You guys quit the mom bashing? I mean, look, Lex's mom is cool because she lets us spend the night, and if it wasn't for your mom trip, we wouldn't have smoked that fine Panama Red last night. So leave the women who gave you life out of it. They're both cool in my book.
I want to give this little moment props, because it's such a trope, especially in teen boy movies where moms end up being the wet blanket, but this little moment here with Edward Furlong's character showing some respect towards them, it's actually just a nice touch. Jam's mum confiscates the jacket with the tickets in the pocket and sends him to school before he later gets a public humiliation from her.
Jeremiah Bruce, please come to the office. Jeremiah Bruce, come to the office immediately.
Give me that microphone! Jeremiah Bruce, this is your mother! You fucking big trouble, young man!
Oh!
bitch got me again, motherfucker!
Now you want to see the devil in the flesh. You want to reach out and touch pure evil. And in Detroit, no less.
Yup, Detroit is evidently an evil place no matter who you talk to. Seriously, I went to America last year, and of all the places that I stopped off at, when I told people that we were going to Detroit, everyone was like, why are you going there? In actuality, we were just going there to drop off the car so we could fly over to New York City. Jam's mum burns the Kiss tickets in front of all their eyes. Modern audiences would not be able to sympathize as heavily because tickets are such a different thing in the digital age, but in the 1970s, fuck, that would have been heart-wrenching.
I knew it. I'm completely fucked.
What's your profanity?
Jam gets taken away to a religious boarding school while the other boys run from the hall monitor and take refuge in the girls' bathroom before peeping over the stalls at the girl next to them.
Never the hots for her since 2nd grade.
Okay, two things. So, one, if you have the hots for her, maybe don't watch her take a shit. That's not really an aphrodisiac. And two, since the 2nd grade, in the 2nd grade, I was making paper planes and obsessing over Digimon. We must have grew up very differently. This leads the boys to accidentally knocking all the stalls down while she screams.
Comedy.
God forbid someday you have a son like you, Jeremiah.
God forbid you cut your lungs some fucking slack. Cigarette smoking is way more harmful than rock and roll. Try setting an example, mummy dearest. After hearing of a giveaway on the radio, Trip rushes off to call in and by miraculous coincidence manages to win the tickets. Anyone who has literally ever called in on a radio contest knows that even the chances of getting your phone connected are astronomical, but whatever, let's let the film have this trope. This is genuinely the only time in my life I've ever heard anyone get excited about going to Detroit. The boys conspire to go and rescue Jam from the clutches of a religious boarding school and discuss borrowing Lex's mum's car.
Man, Hawk, all I need is one ding on that Volvo and I'm fucked when my mom gets back from Cincinnati.
She won't even know we touched it, Lex.
Foreshadowing. The boys decide to ditch school, once again chased by the hall monitor. And this scene, like a lot of other scenes in the film, serve to operate like a music video. The soundtrack kicks into gear and the film cuts quickly between a series of music video style shots, which moves the story through its transitional scenes with grace and style. One thing you'll quickly recognize about Detroit Rock City is that it comes with a lot more visual grace than the standard comedy movie will give you. Working with stylish cinematography, quick cut editing, and a soundtrack that keeps the momentum of the movie speeding along. They escape school and the jurisdiction of the hall monitor.
Now, if you think that recklessness and disobedience can get you expelled, think again. Now, St. Bernard's may punish you.
And they will probably diddle you.
Yeah, man, come on, let's go bust them out, yeah!
Oh, no, man, we can't just waltz in there. We gotta figure out a plan, man.
My goodness, what an idea.
Why didn't I think of that?
Hawk enters the school disguised as a delivery boy with a pizza loaded with magic mushrooms.
And I'm donating your tip to the church. The Lord thanks you.
Tell the big guy not to mention it.
This film hits out at religious institutions with dead-on accuracy. The only thing they would need to be more complete is to be making a few jokes about priest diddling kids. But those jokes are my responsibility.
You know, your coming here reminds me of the gospel parable of the prodigal son. Once, there was a man. He had 2 sons.
And this guy diddled them both.
How the hell are we ever supposed to know when he's lit?
Usually takes 10 minutes to half an hour.
I've been telling that sermon for years. This is the first time I realized it's the work of some comedy mastermind. The prodigal son is a barrel of fucking monkeys.
Detroit Rock City has such an undignified look at priesthood and religious institutions. And fuck, I am all for it.
How's it hanging, Padre?
Whoa, I just heard you talking through my nose.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
After pulling Jam out of the pedo castle, they're back on the road to Detroit until they get accosted by a car full of what they call Guidos and Stellas, who somehow can't figure out that the road is 2 lanes and nothing is stopping them from overtaking.
I hate them Italian bastards. You know what I mean?
After pelting pizza at the car, the Guidos get into a scuffle with our boys.
No. Not the fag. That's homophobic.
After smashing their kiss tape, things turn more physical.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
The boys send the Guido mobile into the river and continue on their way.
If they put the fag makeup on you. The fag makeup, fucking fag makeup on you.
Will you stop saying that?
Along the way, one of the Stellar girls is seen walking along the highway.
It's a teenage girl walking along the side of the highway. I mean, they make scary movies that start out like that.
Hey, but they make porno movies that start out like that too, man.
The science works out.
So you're gonna like suck our dicks or what?
Jesus Christ, Trip. Either have some dignity or at least some boundaries. Like, one of those is not much to ask.
You don't have to be such pigs just because I prefer Donna Summer or Casey and the Sunshine Banner. The Village People over Kiss.
No. Fucking Village People, man, they're a fag band.
Oh, come on, bro. That's what the Greasers said about you. Maybe stop the cycle of homophobic language in its tracks.
Hey, you know something? Disco's so fucking big right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Kiss did a disco song someday.
Oh, yeah.
Man, if it's one thing Kiss will never do, it's a bullshit disco song.
No shit, man.
Except, of course, they went ahead and made I Was Made for Lovin' You, which became a disco staple, so...
Disco blows dogs for quarters, man.
That's supposed to mean something?
The boys reached Detroit.
Man, this is better than the first time I got to finger a chick, man.
I'm so glad they momentarily cut the music so that we could hear that line.
They should put a diaper on his face, that's where the crap is coming out.
The boys go to the radio station to claim their tickets, but it turns out there's a little problem.
You just got yourself 4 tickets and 4 backstage passes. Live at Como Hall tonight. We won. Stay on the line so we get your full name, information, and Trip. Oh man, you didn't hang up on me, did you, Trip? What kind of total moron would hang up after winning Kiss tickets?
Oh, that's a shame.
To make matters worse,
Guys, where's the Volvo?
It was fucking stolen, man.
This has been a shit-ass day.
I was trying to be conscientious. I didn't think he was gonna steal his motherfucking car.
Jam, just shut your faggoty ass mouth, okay? You're pissing me off.
and you're pissing me off with that homophobic dialogue. But at the same time, this film did make me reflect on the fact that up until I was about 15, I used words like that very freely. And I'm not at all proud of it, so I can't be one to judge, really.
I know how we could get the fucking tickets. Good plan. Beat the fucking shit out of like 4 little kids or something, you know? Like, take their fucking tickets.
Bad plan! Bad plan! You are bad planner!
The boys decide to split up and each try and score tickets in the time before the concert.
Shit. Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Mum forces Jam into a church whilst Hawk tries bartering with a scalpel.
Hey, wait a minute, where am I supposed to find that kind of money in an hour, man?
Check it out over there. There's a little contest going on. You take off your pants, shake your wee-wee, you get $100.
Trip, on the other hand, continues his journey into assholedom.
Hey, you little twerps. Give me your Kiss tickets or I'll pop your faces in.
But we don't have any Kiss tickets. Yeah, Kiss sucks.
What? I'd have kicked your asses for saying that. Give me this instead. Now scram! Get out of here!
What a fucking loser. I'm gonna videotape this.
Okay, booger, your Kiss ticket or your life.
My brother's hanging on to it for safekeeping. Please, let me get him for you. Hey, Chongo!
What kind of parent gives their kid a stupid cunt name like that?
Please, sir, don't kick my ass. I'll do anything to get out of a beating.
Perhaps we could use some extra cash for tasty snacks at the Kiss concert.
Meanwhile, Hawk goes to compete in the male stripper concert hosted by notorious sexual predator Ron Jeremy.
Our next amateur has a name like a bird, and if you like birds, you'll like this. It's just a swallow.
Oh, that man is sick!
You might remember this photo of the two actors making its way on social media not too long ago. Yeah, both of them have fallen pretty far from the glory they had in the 1990s. Hawk gets up to perform, but begins by puking his gut out.
Oh, that just kept going, huh?
Eventually, Hawk begins to perform, losing himself in the moment to a Kiss record, and a room full of women cheer as a teenage boy takes his clothes off for their entertainment.
That is just fucking mental.
While Jam is getting reamed by a priest for not actually having any sins to confess to, his classmate Beth surprises him and the two start making out.
I've been in love with you since the moment I saw you. I've just always been too scared to show it.
I literally watched The Last American Virgin earlier in the day when I watched this movie for the review, and it had a near identical scene that I then had to watch in this film.
Ever since I first saw you, I loved you. I could never tell you, but...
Despite his best efforts, Hawk loses the competition.
$200? My time's precious, and I think that's a reasonable price to pay.
Tripp grapples with the possibility of robbing the store until another guy beats him to it. He manages to stop the robbery with the work of a Stretch Armstrong and makes out with the clerk, finally doing something right in the story. Lex tries sneaking into the concert, and after getting so far, he finds himself tossed in with the junkyard dogs whom he distracts with a frisbee. And Hawk nails an older woman, played by Gene Simmons' wife, Shannon Tweed, making him a victim of statutory rape. As teenage boys, a lot of us fantasized about this. As an adult, I really can't look at it the same way.
Do not diddle kids, it's no good diddling kids.
Lex finds his mum's stolen car in a chop shop with Estella they picked up tied up. He saves her by sicking the dogs on them, which doesn't make too much sense considering that if this is their junkyard, then that would be their junkyard dogs and thus they would be attacking their owners. But I digress. He rescues her, Hawk gets a bunch of money for his services which she insists were not prostitution, Tripp gets $150 of reward money for stopping the robbery and hands it over but still gets his ass handed to him, and Jam goes to finally confront his mother.
I've been in trouble for the past 12 hours. Hello?
He starts monologuing.
He starts monologuing.
I'm gonna be out of your hair until I am a legal adult. Yes! Then all you have to do is go to church, light a candle, and pray to some stupid little statue for me, and all is forgiven and forgotten, right, Mom? And that way you don't even need to think about how tough it was for you when you were growing up, and it's probably a good thing, too, because if you did, you'd realize what a lousy, goddamn, shitty-ass parent you are.
You just said a lot of bad words.
I just lost my virginity in a confessional booth!
Oh, I'm sure a lot of boys did, against their will. But also, I'll make a note of saying that this film actually predated the comedy movie Eurotrip as being a teen comedy with a sex scene in a confessional. And I watched both these movies during my time in Bali. It's just fucking great. The boys reunite just before the concert with no tickets in hand.
I say that we all beat the shit out of each other, right? Then we go to the ticket taker and we say that we got mugged and our tickets were stolen.
Wait a minute. That's the smartest thing I've ever heard anyone say about anything.
Detroit Rock City climaxes with the boys spontaneously beating the ever-loving shit out of each other. When all else fails, sure, let's just pulverize each other. Honestly, that scene in the movie was the moment where I was like, oh, I have got to do a review on this film.
Hey, it was those assholes right there. They stole our tickets. Number 13. In there, you'll find my Kiss Army picture ID and $150 cash.
After the security guards go through their personal belongings, which they don't actually have the legal authority to do, they find Tripp's wallet and immediately believe his story, meaning that the boys get to go in, and that Tripp's plan to beat up a child for his ticket actually worked out for them all in the end.
What's the lesson here? I always want to make sure I know what the lesson is. I'm a completist.
Who gives a shit? They get to see Kiss. The drum kicks off with the titular song, Jam catches Peter Criss's drumstick, and the story concludes at the 89-minute mark. Is Detroit Rock City a good film?
Yeah, man.
I initially hadn't rewatched Detroit Rock City a single time from my first viewing in 2018 until I watched it for this review, and I was not 100% certain that it would carry the same gimmicky entertainment that it did back then. But the truth is, this is such a fun, easy film to watch that fuck yeah, it does. Detroit Rock City is a film which sets out to be a good time and succeeds at it. It has a relatively predictable story about a group of guys taking a road trip together, getting into misadventures along the way, overcoming their own personal quandaries, and ultimately reaching a predictable conclusion where everything is well. It's shot and edited with the grace of a music video and loaded with a soundtrack full of bangin' rock and roll tunes which kept their manic energy propelling. Honestly, after watching this film, I immediately downloaded Shouted Out Loud by Kiss and Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy, and I listened to them almost religiously during my 10 days in Bali, riding on the back of a motorcycle with those tunes in my ears, and it was fucking dope. It's hard not to feel the camaraderie of the four boys' journey. It isn't as substantial or deep as a more sophisticated coming-of-age film, but Detroit Rock City doesn't pretend to be that. It adheres to the tropes enough so that the audience can enjoy a familiar and predictable ride, and it preferences innovation through its sense of style. Adam Rifkin gives the film his keen eye for imagery, which makes the film a visual experience, and the precise work of John R. Leonetti's cinematography really shows itself off very consistently throughout the film. There is never a moment where it feels like Detroit Rock City wasn't storyboarded and shot with absolute precision, and all the different pans, zooms, quick cuts, and split shots complement the manic energy. Detroit Rock City gave me very similar vibes to the film Dazed and Confused, another movie set in the 1970s about a bunch of teenagers trying to have their night of their life set to an awesome rock and roll soundtrack. And incidentally, the director of that film, Richard Linklater, was actually asked to direct Detroit Rock City before Adam Rifkin took on the film. Dazed and Confused was a way more slice-of-life film, focusing on the experiences of the characters and less on giving them any narrative trajectory. Detroit Rock City, on the other hand, focuses more on the destination of the characters, giving it a more rapid editing style and a faster pace, setting its characters a goal, trying to get to a rock concert in Detroit, Michigan. It's a slightly more in-your-face alternative to Dazed and Confused with a more obnoxious sense of humor, which is nonetheless still funny. Admittedly, being a 90s film, it still has some rather outdated morals, such as its homophobic language, which is ultimately realistic dialogue but still carries some discomfort with it, and the scene portraying teenage Hawk at a strip club surrounded by cheering women before he gets schlepped by a grown woman after she gives him alcohol isn't anything to cheer for. I mean, you could argue that she didn't know he was a kid, and nor did anyone else since he got into the club with a fake ID, but still, it isn't the most pleasant concept. I feel like not enough people talk about Detroit Rock City, and that's why I'm here today, to spread the word of a film that I think is underrated, underappreciated, and under-recognized. It is a cult classic amongst Kiss fans, but I have never had a conversation with anyone about it in my life. Now, it's not currently available on any streaming platform subscriptions, unfortunately, so if you're going to watch it, you'll probably have to source yourself a DVD like I did. But I will also say that I feel like one of the reasons not enough people talk about this movie is because, realistically, it's not exactly remarkable. Detroit Rock City is a film which doesn't have much to say about anything except touching lightly upon the value of going on adventures with your friends. It does sport a rebellious spirit and critiques the hypocrisy and stupidity of religious paranoia toward rock music, particularly in the scene at the end where Jam delivers his speech. But the film really doesn't have anything to say about religion that we don't already know, and its way of communicating this to audiences is a one-dimensional mother figure whose religious devotion is the entirety of her personality. The film treats this as a gimmick and is very loud about it, but at the same time, it fulfills a trope. And the ultimate triumph over the overbearing mother at the film's conclusion is a satisfying ending. Also, once the characters get to the concert, the film just ends right then and there. It feels like there could have been at least one more scene in the film where the characters elaborating on what they discovered about themselves along the way or voicing appreciation for each other. And the original cut of this film came in at 3 hours, so maybe in cutting it down to a runtime that's basically half of that, we did lose a lot of the narrative along the way. But honestly, I feel like for the most part that works in the favor of Detroit Rock City because, like I said, it's trying to be a silly, fun movie. And by making itself brief and fast-paced, it adheres to that without dragging its ass. It's not a coming-of-age movie, it just assembles a collection of characters that you typically find in one and shares a few surface-level tropes with that type of film along the way. And the 4 boys it assembles for the adventures all deliver solid performances. Edward Furlong plays the same young rebellious archetype he always did in the 1990s, and it's one that comes so naturally to him that it works. It's also nice to see him portray it in a comedy because we see him flexing his comedic muscles that Adam Rifkin knows how to bring out of him. Honestly, after Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and American History X, Detroit Rock City is Edward Furlong's best film in my opinion. Sam Huntington plays the dramatic center of the film, being the boy who is constantly subjected to his mother's religious overreach. He doesn't get much comedic material, but he plays a likable and compelling character whose ultimate monologue at the end of the film is delivered with passion and sympathy. And Cabin Fever co-stars James DeBello and Giuseppe Andrews take on the roles of the remaining 2 boys. James DeBello pumps the obnoxiousness up, being a foul-mouthed dumbass that feels often like a long audition for the role of Jay, a la Jay and Silent Bob, even looking the part. He plays just enough of an asshole that it's often funny, but not so much of one that he becomes unlikable. I mean, yeah, he's an over-the-top dumb teenager archetype spouting dumb nonsense and misogyny, but the film makes it pretty clear that he's an idiot for doing so. And James DeBello does an energetic job with the role. As for Giuseppe Andrews, he kinda gets pushed to the background much of the time. He shares great chemistry with the others when they're all together, but when he goes off alone to try to get into the concert towards the end, his journey is mostly composed of sight gags where he's running around and knocking things over without saying much. Which he does a fine job of, but which I don't feel lives up to his comedic potential. I first became familiar with Giuseppe Andrews when I was young, watching the sitcom 2 Guys and a Girl, one of the most underrated 90s sitcoms in my opinion. And it was the show that kickstarted the career of Ryan Reynolds and Nathan Fillion, yet nobody seems to talk about it anymore. Giuseppe Andrews plays the same character he always has, and he does a good job of it. I just wish there was more of it. And these 4 boys all have great chemistry with each other. They share the dynamic of real high school friends who have known each other for years and know each other very well. Their relationship has a sincerity to it which reminded me of the friends I hanged out with in high school, giving it a warm feeling of nostalgia. And if a teen comedy movie has you reflecting fondly on the good times you had as a teenager with your friends, then it's done something right. And honestly, I think that's one thing that Detroit Rock City does best. Detroit Rock City gets 7 dynasties out of 10. It's silly, predictable, and bereft of any real substance, but thanks to Adam Rifkin's tenaciously stylish direction, its fast, humorous energy, and a consistent sense of real fun, it proves to be a nostalgic and entertaining ride with the rock and roll spirit that the title promises and some great performances from its 4 central actors. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If you want to see more episodes of this show, please hit that subscribe button. Check out in the description if you want to see details for the premiere of my movie. Otherwise, until next time, I have been your host, Jukebox Harry. Shout it out loud!